I feel like this one is gonna be a pretty good video. All right.
So, we've lost our shared humanity over a f***ing gotcha game.
Oh shit.
Okay guys, it's time we had to talk about Genshin, Hoyo, and the strike because man, it sucks out there right now. And before I start, I do want to say a big thank you to everyone.
By the way, this is the guy of Riesli, by the way. This is the guy that voices Riesli in Genshin.
I consulted with while I was writing this script, okay? I talked with union members, I talked with non-union members, talent and fans, etc. My goal here is twofold: educate and de-escalate. So a big thank you to all the people that helped me get grounded and get the facts before getting started. If you haven't seen my original video where I explain the strike itself, I'm gonna go over a little bit of it again here, but you might wanna check that out first before diving into the incredible amount of nuance that I'm about to do in this video. First, this video is designed, and I want you to pay attention here, to outline facts. And in any case, where I absolutely have to inject my opinion, I've done my best to make it clear that I'm doing so. It's not here to render judgment on studios or casting directors, Hoyo, the fandom, actors, nobody. The reason I'm making this is because I've gotten so many questions and the internet situation is so weird every day from well-meaning individuals in the community asking for updates on the SAG-AFTRA strike and recasts, etc. Stuff that most actors really don't have any insight on, right? We're just actors. We don't know what Hoyo is thinking, etc., etc. But given that
there is no way he's going to be honest then. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe we're casting judgment a bit too soon. I think perhaps maybe we're casting judgment a little bit too soon. I don't think there's any reason why we shouldn't like believe him. Or I know other VAs have painted a bit of a bad rep, but like he comes across as very intelligent. So I'm hoping we get a pretty objective look on the matter, so we'll see.
Nearly every social media platform has become a powder keg. I'm getting a little tired of seeing our shared humanity deteriorate over a gacha game, okay? The social phenomenon that is Genshin Impact and its follow-on Hoyo games have changed the voice acting industry and fandom in many ways. It's very, very unique. Some ways that I don't think are that great. This is my attempt to bring us back to reality with some facts. If you're looking for more toxicity or someone like spilling the tea, you are absolutely in the wrong place on this video. The other thing that I want to say is that I don't speak for any individual other than myself, even though I did a lot of research and talking with a lot of people to come up with the script for this video. The things I'm presenting here are what I believe to be true based on years of working in this industry, conversations with other actors, agents, directors, studios, etc., etc. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a negotiator, or anyone who has the power to go out and affect change, okay? I'm someone trying to spread understanding in my role as a teacher and an actor in a world full of viral social media posts that are both untrue and inflammatory. And that's what we need now. We need shared understanding, okay? This is my attempt to provide it. First, let's briefly recap the SAG-AFTRA video game strike. The Actors Union is currently on strike, which means its members are not allowed to work for video games only, for a select group of production companies in the effort of bringing formal protections into our contracts regarding our voices being used for
So it's not an overall strike, it's a strike on some productions, okay.
The purposes of AI. This means that actors who are a member of the union, SAG-AFTRA, are not allowed to work on those certain struck games from those certain struck companies.
Okay. So in the strike, you're not allowed to work on games that are struck. So then why are people working on Genshin and Hoyo games? I assume that means that those are games that aren't actually struck. So if that's the case, why are they refusing to like work? That's what I'm curious about.
I'll say it again. The strike is for specific union games, for specific union signatories, for actors that are a member of the union. Games that are non-union, meaning that their companies are not signed to union contracts, are by definition not struck.
Okay, yeah. So they're not struck, but people are striking? Then it's not a strike. Then you're not striking. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. They're not striking. You're just refusing to work.
In addition to that, games that started production before the strike are also not struck. It's a very confusing atmosphere, I know. But I can relieve that confusion for Genshin fans specifically by saying this. Do you know what company isn't in that select group of production companies being struck? Hoyo. I cannot emphasize enough that MiHoYo properties are not and never have been union games. Therefore, Genshin has never been a struck property. There are 0 union rules governing Genshin or any MiHoYo game, period. End of story as of this date. This is not a debate. This means, and I want you to listen very carefully here, if the SAG-AFTRA strike ended tomorrow, this would mean absolutely nothing for Hoyo Games and its actors. If suddenly WB and Formosa, Keywords, all the rest, threw a ticker tape parade and said, we agree to all the actors' demands, yay!
That wouldn't affect Hoyo Games. Because it wouldn't apply to them because they're not even union. Wow. So what's the fucking point? Wow.
Nothing would change for Genshin or Star Rail or Triple Z or any other non-union game. So point number 1, please stop talking about Genshin like it has anything to do with the SAG-AFTRA strike. Genshin is not a union game. The actors working on it are not working under a union contract. Period. Put a pin in that, okay? Because we're going to come back to the idea of union and non-union actors in a minute, now that we've sort of covered union and non-union games. Okay, so why the hell aren't actors going in to record lines for Genshin if it's...
I guess then they're then refusing to work in order to make MiHoYo union. That's the true goal. Because if MiHoYo isn't even union to begin with, signing any AA agreement doesn't make sense because it's not union in the first place. So all of this is literally just to make MiHoYo union. It's like a coup. It's like they're holding them to ransom, being like, hey, when we refuse to work, we want you to become a union game first. That's what it is. That's what this whole fucking like VA bullshit is about. That's literally all it is.
Not struck. When the strike happened, many Genshin actors got together in various disparate channels and decided that now would be a good time to try to engage with Hoyo and encourage them to take some action. Actors could use the momentum, the social momentum of the SAG-AFTRA strike to include Hoyo properties in the conversation. Again though, it's not a strike and it has nothing to do with the union. Since this is not a strike, I'm not going to call it a strike. From here on, I'm going to call it a collective work refusal.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's not governed by any one body like SAG-AFTRA. There is no one result desired like a collective bargaining agreement, and there is no penalty for not participating, unlike the SAG-AFTRA strike. If you are a union member and you cross the line and record games you're not supposed to, you can be penalized. In a non-union environment, that doesn't exist. So, what did Genshin actors want? This is where some of the confusion kind of begins. The goal wasn't really totally clear. Some actors wanted them to sign a union agreement and flip union, become a union game. You might have heard this called an interim agreement, which just has to do with an agreement that's going on during a strike, or a full union contract. There's some nuance of difference here. Because Genshin's an ongoing game, they're essentially the same thing. Others wanted them to just add AI protections into their non-union contract. Something like the Nava rider, okay? Which is something that any actor can attach to any contract to legally protect themselves against AI exploitation. And some actors, understandably, didn't really know what to think about the whole thing, but they were motivated by the social side, solidarity, social obligation, community feeling, and they also refused to.
Or maybe we can also call that peer pressure from the other VAs, because if you don't, you then get harassed online, get called a scab, which then marks you. It actually puts a mark on you for other people to then point and laugh at you, so you become a target. So maybe, yeah, we could say solidarity, but maybe we could also call it peer pressure to some degree. Holy fuck.
To work. This is part of the problem of non-union games, or non-union anything, actually. Since there's no actual collective bargaining agreement governed by any union, it becomes difficult for a group of people to take a collective action. In social psychology, you call this a collective action problem. It's very complicated. So anytime a group of non-union actors tries to get together to achieve any result, it's hard. It's hard for us to communicate. It's hard for us to bargain. Since there are no rules in place, any actor is free to just disregard that collective effort at any time with no penalty, unlike, again, an actual strike where you can get fined or kicked out of the union for strike breaking. So, as a result, some actors simply kept working. Some actors stopped working and then went back to work after only a few weeks of refusing to come in. Some actors stuck it out and haven't been recast. Some actors stuck it out and have been recast. Ultimately, the decision to work or not to work has become a very individual and not a collective decision. So you can see how the waters are already very muddy here. Now, let me muddy them further.
Oh, God.
In January 2025, a new California law, AB 2602, was put into effect. It says that unless there is very specific wording in a contract telling an actor that a digital replica, an AI clone, will be created of them, then it is illegal to do so. That actor must also be professionally represented and not an independent agent, or the company may not create a digital replica of their work even if they put it in the contract. So an uneducated actor without an agent can't just accidentally stumble into a contract that steals their voice. Since, to my knowledge, no Hoyo contract specifically says they will make a digital replica using an actor's data, they are therefore, by AB 2602, specifically prohibited from doing so. Therefore,
that's good for the California VAs, I guess.
Is now protected from having a digital replica.
But that's like, okay. That's like a digital replica of their voice. The problem with AI and why it's so hard to make rules and regulations for it right now is that the terminology, it could be very vague and it has to be very specific, right? So like a digital replica is a one-to-one of your voice, right? But you can also have things where maybe they can, that doesn't mean that then they can take your voice and then use that to train other voices or to train other models. Like that could also be a thing. I wonder if that applies here too. Or is it just, does the protection just apply to a one-to-one voice? That's what I'm wondering. Because I feel like that's why like AA laws have to be made like now, because these defining terms matter a lot. So I wonder if that includes that type of stuff as well.
Replica made by Hoyo. This means that the barrier for returning to work for many California actors has been achieved. There's more. This law, AB 2602, only prevents a company from a one-to-one digital replica. So Hoyo can't take my voice without my permission and make...
Blood is answering all the questions I have. This is a great video. Every time I have a question, Blood immediately answers it. This is a great video.
Risley lines, but it doesn't prevent them from using my
Bro! It's like he's in my brain.
Voice to train models, or blending my voice with another person's to create a new and unique voice. This is kind of like a weird, unclear loophole part of the law. I'm actually fairly confident will get clarified over time, but you also have to remember that the whole world is kind of in a legal flail.
Pre-watched? Yeah, I spend my free time watching Genshin VA videos.
Trying to catch up with technology. As an aside, right? The Nava writer and presumably the union contract would have that added layer of protection about training and blending. But we're not totally sure right now on the union contract side because that hasn't been agreed on yet, hence the continued strike. So we don't know what that final contract will contain. Genshin, being under a union contract, would also award the actors the added intended benefit of having the SAG-AFTRA legal team behind them. If Hoyo or any company decides to disregard the contract. Yeah,
it's because like you as an individual, if something happens to your voice and they wrongfully, replicate it or whatever, what the fuck can one person do against $1 billion company? Which is why, like, I've been someone who's been working freelance for a long time, and trust me, it fucking sucks when people with way more money and power than you don't pay you properly, whatever. What are you gonna do? Sue them? You gonna sue super rich fucking people and companies? Nah, they'll just fucking eat you. I'm gonna say eat your ass, but that's like, you know what I mean? Like, they're gonna fuck you up so bad. So like, it's rough.
Contract and make replicas anyway? It would be up to the individual actor to sue them in a non-union contract. A complicated, expensive thing to do for a single individual, to the point of, honestly, like near impossibility. I'm not gonna go toe-to-toe with Hoyo using my own legal team, which I don't have. But it's much easier for a union with 160,000 members in it to do so on an actor's behalf. Now, The historical effectiveness of SAG-AFTRA's legal team could be called into question here as to whether or not they would do the job or do a good job, but I'm trying to outline.
That's true. Just because you're backed up by a union that has resources doesn't mean the people that they employ are then going to be competent. That's fair.
The principles here, okay? A union contract would afford an actor the protection if Hoyo or any other game company broke that contract. So, the non-union world has protection via the California law, yes, but not full protection. And if violated, it will be very difficult for a non-union actor to prosecute a billion-dollar company on their own. Are you seeing how difficult this situation is yet? How unclear it is for even the people involved? Now, could Hoyo make this situation completely vanish by simply signing a union contract? Yes, they absolutely could. It's a good argument to make. It seems like a flawless argument to make, actually, if you have limited understanding of how union contracts work and what the implications are for the company, financially, legally, procedurally. There's more to this than just pencil whipping a contract, okay? Negotiations take time and patience, and the bigger the company, the longer they take. When you're trying to kind of shoehorn a gigantic foreign company into a discussion about United States labor law, things can get confusing really fast. But it is important to say that yes, Hoyo could absolutely make all this go away by just signing a union contract. Talks to that effect have been going on for a long time, with ups and...
I kind of want him to talk about how that affects non-union workers, right? Because as soon as you flip... Forgive me if I'm saying something incorrect or inaccurate here. As soon as you flip a non-union game union, those non-union VAs who then work on the game eventually have to become part of the union. And I think that's the thing right now, the talking point that a lot of people are taking issue with. Like, it's forcing people to do that. And that's something that not maybe every VA would want to do necessarily, with the fees that you have to pay and a bunch of other stuff that comes with it. So, yeah. So what is the effect on the non-union workers who already work on, like, Genshin if they then flipped a union? Because that's what everyone's talking about right now.
And downs and starts and stops, but I can't speak to them as to whether or why not Hoyo is going to do it. We can argue all day whether or not that would be the right thing to do, right? Or whether or not...
Yeah, non-American VAs would have a very hard time too. A very hard time.
Corporation has like moral obligation or even a moral sense of duty. That's not this video. But one thing we can't argue about is that it would definitively bring back every single actor that is collectively refusing to work on Hoyo properties right now. It would bring them back instantaneously. While I've said that these things are complicated, and they are, we also have to zoom out and acknowledge the elephant in the room here, okay? Hoyo is not a scrappy indie dev trying to count pennies to make it by. This is a multi-billion-dollar company operating on a global scale. If anyone has the resources, legal muscle, and the infrastructure to navigate a union contract, it's them. I said I would avoid speculation in this video, so I won't start throwing around ideas as to why Hoyo hasn't done this yet, other than what I've already said. But I do want to emphasize that this action is absolutely well within their power. Other companies like them in China have signed union agreements in the past. So yes, the paperwork is real, the finances are real, the international complication.
Like, what incentive does Hoyo have to go union? Like, what incentive do they have? Because at this point, what is their incentive to go union? Like, they can keep all the SAG actors, but at this point, they're just replacing them one by one at this point. Like, I guess that's what they're waiting for. Maybe they're waiting it out to see if how long it will be before the VAs come back. Like, I'm really trying to think about how, like, what's the incentive? I don't know at this point. They seem to be happy to replace people, so I guess it's a matter of time, right? It's a matter of time.
Are real, but let's be honest, resource constraints are not the barrier here.
Because, like, it's not really affecting their bottom line that much. Genshin, Honkai Star aren't losing out on ridiculous amounts of money because, you know, VAs aren't voicing. The game's still making shit tons of fucking money.
And that's part of what's made this situation so frustrating for so many people.
Maybe the VAs thought they had more power or more skin in the game than they really do. Because, you know, we had the whole thing of like a lot of VAs say that I am this VA or I am this character from this game. Like we kind of spoke about yesterday on the podcast, right? I am this character. And a lot of fans really adore that. And maybe they thought they had more pull on the overall community than they actually do. Like they have a pull on the Ian side of the community, but not enough that it really affects like the bottom line of these games significantly enough. So maybe they collectively thought that they would have the power now that they've built themselves up to be these figureheads in the space that, oh, we now have so much influence in the community and in the Genshin community, we could like pressure Hoyo to like flip Union, not realizing that you're not only dealing with the US, you're dealing with bloody Asia, you're dealing with like China, you're dealing with like the CN community, and they don't give a fuck about the ENVAs. So I think maybe a lack of judgment took place and people thought they had more influence than they did to flip Union, and now it's taken so long and people are starting to see a lot more of the information and feel like, well, at this point it's on you, right? At this point, what are we looking for? Like, I could totally sympathize why they would want it to flip Union, but goddamn.
People. The perception, maybe the reality, I'm not sure, that Hoyo could fix this with just a single signature on a union contract and just hasn't done it, right? That's what's frustrating people. Had Hoyo gone union a year ago, many of the actors working on it would have qualified for their health insurance on Genshin alone, a huge, huge benefit for actors. Yes.
I want to understand what that means. They would have qualified for health insurance. Why is that the case? What is the threshold for qualifying for health insurance?
Just a single signature on a union contract and just hasn't done it, right? That's what's frustrating people. Had Hoyo gone union a year ago, many of the actors working on it would have qualified for their health insurance on Genshin alone, a huge, huge benefit for actors.
Is it because they earn a certain threshold of money? Is it because they earn a certain threshold of money? That's what I'm wondering right now. Many actors would have qualified for health insurance. I guess that maybe they earn more. I don't know. We'll see. I want this to be explained a little bit more.
Yes, big corporations take a long time to make these sort of large decisions, but how long is too long? I can't answer that, and neither can people on Twitter. But let's talk about that decision to go union and how it affects more than just Hoyo. Let's spin it around and talk about the actors and try my best to cover all the possibilities here. What happens to actors, both union and non-union, if they do sign an agreement with the union? Contrary to many misinformed Twitter rants, that does not mean that all the non-union actors on the game would get replaced. That's a wildly ignorant claim and one that's very harmful to progress to spread. The real answer is, as you might expect at this point if you've been paying any attention at all, it depends. It actually has to do with the actor's individual situation, as well as where they live, bizarrely enough. Let me clarify. If the actor lives in a right-to-work state, such as Texas, then nothing happens at all. Right-to-work laws within states specifically prevent a union from stopping people from working if they're not a member of the union. They can.
Okay, that's good. Holy base Texas. Holy fucking base Texas. Yeah, I would like to live in Texas. Yeah, that seems pretty cool. That seems pretty. You won't just lose your fucking job because of a union. Yeah, that's pretty. I think everyone should have that. I feel like everyone should have that.
Can continue working on Genshin forever if the actor does not live in a right-to-work state. Now we're getting murky. You might have heard the term Taft-Hartley thrown around, and I advise you really just don't look too deep into this because it's confusing. It's a piece of labor law that actually has nothing to do with SAG-AFTRA. It was written in 1947 and designed as a path to both protect people from being forced to join unions, but also offer them more flexible ways to join if they want to. For our purposes, bringing it back to us, consider a Taft-Hartley like a temporary 60-day union pass to allow someone who is non-union to work on a union job. After that, they're considered a must join, at which point, like the status implies, they must join the union or stop working union jobs. I'll break here for a second and tell you that
that's fucking shit. That's ass. That is shit. that's like you have, yeah, it's a temporary like pause or break, but like I just don't, you're still forced. You have no choice. You are still forced. That's like I really don't like that. Yeah, I really don't like that. Subscription service. Subscription union service. Bro, you get the 60-day welcome pass for SAG-AFTRA. Bro, you get the 60-day SAG-AFTRA pass. Yeah, not to be forced, but the VA confessed they were forced to join the union. Yep. But saying that you must join is kind of sounds like being, you must join or you can't work on the game sounds like being forced to me. I don't know. Whether it's 60 days, 100 days, saying you must join sounds like you're being forced to me.
It is significantly more complicated than that. There are caveats as to when the Taft-Hartley triggers, for example. It's also possible to negotiate an individual waiver with the union and say, look, I'm only ever going to work this one union job. Please don't make me join. I won't do anything else. And they can say yes. There's flexibility here. These, however, are edge cases that are just beyond the scope.
That's still ass. So like it's very flexible and it could be negotiated, but that's still like, I won't, like, oh, I'll just work this one game and won't work any others. You'll still, oh, I don't like this. None of this would matter if the game wasn't union in the first place. So like it's the more and more I hear about it, the more I'm like, damn, maybe a game being union isn't like all it's cracked up to be at this point. It only works, it's the whole point of a union, right? It only works if every game is union and everybody goes union and you just have this whole monopoly in the whole situation. And I get it's there to like protect the people in the union, that's the whole fucking point. But damn, it just sounds so harsh on the people not involved.
Scope of this video, this would be a 5-hour video. In the simplest sense, you can do on a Taft-Hartley a very limited amount of union work as a non-union member before you have to join. And that sort of makes perfect sense if you think about it. The union offers actual tangible benefits, even for a single contract. Reaping those benefits without being a union member and paying your dues is like extending your Netflix free trial indefinitely. At some point, you gotta pay for what you're using. But being able to join the union for some actors can be a really good thing. Getting into the union is a stepping stone in
for some actors.
Many actors' careers, and it can actually be difficult to qualify for the union because, bizarrely, the only way into the union is if you get Taft-Hartley first and then join. Oh, simple. No, it's not. I don't want to delve too far into union membership here, but it is important to understand and consider why an actor might not want to join the union. The entry fee itself can be steep, depending on where you live. Mine was nearly $4,000 when
$4,000?
I joined 10 years ago. So that talent would have to know for certain that we're going to get at least 5 sessions out of Genshin to make up for that loss. That's about how much money you'd make in 5 union video game sessions, depending on the tier that you're in. Again, complicated. Or that actor would have to feel confident enough that they could book other union work to help them bring that number, that entry fee number, back to 0. You do get pension and health benefits, okay? But you only qualify for health benefits if you earn a certain income of union work, around $30,000 a year. You would need to do 30 Genshin sessions to make that, probably more like 35, which makes healthcare sort of a moot point for Genshin actors, unless, again, you're confident you're going to get other union work.
Right, so that's why Paimon's VA, maybe that's why Paimon's VA was talking about healthcare a lot in their like TikTok video, because they say so fucking much. They must have the most sessions out of everybody in Genshin, right? So she has huge incentive. She has huge incentive for this. Like massive incentive, because she gets the most lines out of fucking everybody. Yeah. Okay, got it.
Work.
They're not part of the union, yo, but I'm saying that's her incentive for really talking about this. And she was talking about like, oh, you could get health care if Hoyo goes union, but not everybody will. Not everybody will have the lines and the booking time required to even meet that in the first place, but she would, because she's Paimon and she has so many fucking lines.
You can also break up that entrance fee into a payment.
The mods removed this post. They got the receipt about the VA SAG. This has been removed. Oh wow. Paramount's VA says they were forced into joining SAG union in an interview in 2022. Is there a link to this? Is there a link to this? I would love to see like a direct link to that.
Plan. So it's not like you could just get like a $4,000 bill, but it's still $4,000 you might not want to spend. Here's another big one that's become a very hot button issue in the last 8 months. Joining the union also technically prohibits an actor from doing any non-union work, which statistically comprises nearly 80% of all voiceover work available. We call this rule Global Rule 1. So you might have heard that terminology before. When you're union, you cannot work non-union jobs. Period. Yikes. So now I'm going to start dividing the room here in this video.
Yo, I dare for you. Thank you for the Prime sub. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for giving me your Prime.
I'm going to piss some people off because even if you're a little bit of a detective, you have to be asking this question so far. If you're in the union and you're in Genshin, are you breaking the rules? The answer is, you guessed it. You've been paying attention. It depends. But
there's so many it depends. Like, I really do wonder how and why this came to be. How did SAG actors who can't work non-union jobs end up working on Genshin? Is it because SAG saw Hoyo as this huge opportunity? This is why I'm thinking like SAG or the union members must have thought that like, wow, this is such a huge opportunity. If we say no, we would be kind of like silly. If we partake and we provide a good, okay, this is my crackhead theory, okay? This is my crackhead theory. This is all speculation. This is all my opinion. This is all my theory from my fucking brain, right? Okay, SAG after VAs aren't allowed to work on non-union games, kind of, right? But then Genshin comes along. And it's during COVID, and it's like, okay, this seems like a pretty good opportunity. We'll make an exception for this because Hoyo is making a shit ton of fucking money. Gacha's probably like, you know, VA work, and VAs are getting popular from kind of gacha games in general. Let's start this out. A year or two passes of Genshin, right? A year or two passes of Genshin, and SAG realizes, oh shit, the VAs are also getting like insane recognition. Like, these VAs are becoming like the new age celebrities. Like, they're building up in their influence. This is exactly what we need, right? Let's stick this out because clearly we're doing a really good job. The audience loves us. They're attached to our VAs. They're attached to our talent. This is the perfect opportunity to use all the influence that we have now garnered over these last 2 years to maybe flip this whole company union. And they stuck it out for this long. They stuck it out for so many years in the hopes that look how much influence that we have. The community fucking love us. And so they made, so my theory is that SAG made an exception to Hoyo, knowing what the future potential could have been if they then flipped union. That's my theory on what happened and why it's happening. And now it's really messy because now they're at the turning point where like, okay, they're not going union. Now what do? We'll just like strike our work. Yeah, now the community hates them. So like, was it worth it? Was it worth it? It seems like SAG really took it as an exception, as an opportunity to flip a huge Chinese company union and take a big W for them, but it's not really working out. So it's not really working out. And I also really want to know how we've spoken about like the non-union members and how they would eventually have to join with the Taft-Hartley agreement in some way. But what about people outside of the US? That's what I want to know. People outside of the US that this doesn't apply to. I guess this is why everyone is bloody American in in Genshin. Whereas like in Wuthering Waves, there are a lot of British people because they're hiring from the British side of the cast. I forgot what it's called. But it's very interesting. I guess they did it to avoid this thing happening. Who knows? They say that, oh, it's cheaper to hire from the UK because it's closer. I think that's bullshit. I think they're hiring from the UK to avoid this exact thing happening, personally. Again, crackhead theory.
But yes, probably you are breaking the rules. The "it depends" part is a caveat in union membership called the financial core or FI core status, which is a complicated legal caveat I don't want to get into here. But if you're FI core, you can legally work non-union jobs as a union member without being penalized. you do lose some surrogate benefits, like the ability to vote in union elections, be on any board or committee.
Let me replay that. Let me replay that real quick.
Complicated legal caveat I don't want to get into here, but if you're FICOR, you can legally work non-union jobs as a union member without being penalized. You do lose some surrogate benefits, like the ability to vote in union elections, be on any board or committee in the union, attend union functions, go to union classes, etc. But you do retain health and pension benefits. I say this here because I get that question a lot, specifically about health and pension. There used to be a large social stigma associated with being FICOR. For example, the SAG-AFTRA official website still calls them scabs. It's a little...
Oh, okay. This is where the marking of the people come in. You're part of SAG, but you're FICOR, so you're able to work on non-union things, but with reduced benefits. But you get to keep some of the core important things. I guarantee most of the VAs don't fucking go to those union classes. They just care about the healthcare and the pension, which makes sense. I think all of us, that's how we would approach it. And so then they mark them and call them scabs. How dare you? You're reducing the effectiveness of the union. You're reducing the effectiveness of the union by like doing this non-union work. Like, how could you? And it paints a target for people. Damn, like honestly, the union kind of sounds a little bit like a cult sometimes. Yeah, it kind of sounds just very culty right now. I'll be real.
Strange. But as the landscape has changed over the last 20 years, particularly in voice acting, it's not quite the reality anymore. Again, 80% of the work out there for voice actors is non-union. However, if you're a full union member and you work a non-union job and someone reports you and the union decides to take action, you could get in trouble for breaking Global Rule 1. You could get fined, or you could get kicked out of the union, or you could just get a nasty letter in the mail. It kind of depends. So for a Genshin actor, to avoid that, you could theoretically join the union if you're a must-join after working for over 60 days on a Taft-Hartley, and then immediately go FICOR. You're never actually forced into being a full member of the union. You do, in fact, have options. But the landscape is...
But then you have that social and peer pressure of being labeled a scab amongst your fellow VAs. Yikes.
It's complicated. The truth of it is, though, that many union actors do take that calculated risk without going FICOR because they need to work to live. And again, 80% of the work for voice actors is non-union. There are droves of union actors on the Genshin, Triple Z, and Star Rail cast, and many other incredibly popular games that are doing this. Union voice actors, now on-camera actors has a little bit of a different culture that makes zero sense for me to go into here. Union voice actors work non-union jobs fairly often. We also call this working off the card, and historically have not gotten in trouble for it. I have several ideas about why, but again, I'm really trying hard to stick to facts and not speculation here. This isn't something you could definitively, deduce.
I really appreciate that he's laying that out and he has his own thoughts and theories, but he's keeping this very 100% objective. I honestly, it makes me really like this guy, really like this job, Mr. Reesley, and I feel I'm actually liking this video. This video is very straight to the point. It's very informative. I think he's doing a very good job so far. This is a really, really good video.
But during a video game strike, the union might take the opportunity to send a message to a bunch of union actors working off card on really popular non-union games to make a point. And that brings me to the real tricky part, the social side of things. Rules and regulations are one thing, but industry perceptions and relationships are something completely different. I want you to understand that I'm not getting to this here because this is not measurable. It is a feeling. It is actually part of the problem in a lot of ways. So when we start asking questions like, well, why doesn't everyone just go FICOR? Or are people being blacklisted for working on non-union games during the strike? These really deal with non-measurable social feelings that can be very powerful, yes, but fall outside the bounds of what I'm trying to do here with this video, which is give as much factual clarity as I can. There are absolutely subjective social effects for doing things like being FICOR. working off the card, not participating in a collective work refusal like what's going on with Genshin right now. There are also subjective social effects for doing things like reporting other actors who are breaking Global Rule 1, which some see as snitching, or getting involved in online arguments that explode in publicity firestorms. But since I can't define those,
yikes. Yikes for Paimon's VA. Whoa,
I
and
really
the
don't
Ching
feel like
VA.
they have a
Oh
place
boy.
in this video. Anyone who says they have the facts on social repercussions during a time like this is certainly definitively incorrect, because there is no such thing. But I bring it up here to let you know that actors, and I say actors here specifically because it's hard to define like a company's social influence. Actors are being influenced in their individual decisions by these social factors as well, which are very undefinable. These are questions like, if I work on Genshin during the strike, even though I'm FICOR and it's totally legal, will other actors shame me? Or if I refuse to work,
I guess maybe that's what someone like Sayu would be doing, because he is in every bloody Hoyo game, right? I wonder if he's FICOR. But because he's someone who is of such good standing within the community, and with the VA community, they don't want to say anything bad about it. And they don't want to call him like a quote-unquote scab, whatever they want to call him, right? Because of who he is. Wild.
and then get recast. What happens to my career?
Again, crackpot theory. Crackpot theory. And I think it's like, let just people fucking work. Honestly, just let people work.
Genshin is my only big project right now, and I'm not confident in my ability to get more work. Actors have to deal with the rumor mill just like anyone else. And it unfortunately plays a part, sometimes a large part, in everything we do. When we also run the risk of things like death threats and harassment online, it makes it even more difficult for us to make clear decisions, speak our minds, or even engage in intelligent, curious discourse with our peers or fans. I can't tell you how many of my colleagues talk about this issue behind closed doors, and only behind closed doors, because out in the open, it is just a toxic mess right now. So even if you think you understand what I've said so far about contracts and union membership and the strike, California law, and all of that, there's still the very unmeasurable and very powerful social element to consider. All of the above goes into the single decision of an actor to work or not work on not just Genshin, but many, many projects. I hope you're understanding how complicated this situation is. We're dealing with laws in multiple states, multiple countries. We're dealing with the union. We're dealing with non-union independent contracts. We're dealing with fragmented AI protections, some of which are full.
I wish he went into how this might affect people outside of the US. I think that's not really discussed very much.
Some of which are not. And worst of all, we're dealing with an insanely popular game with a very enthusiastic base of both actors and fans who are consistently, but not necessarily intentionally, injecting misinformation into this massive, depressing, toxic gristmill that we call social media. Protected by the anonymity of a profile pic of a cucumber with sunglasses or whatever, people then feel free to take small nuggets of truth, wrap them in a giant cocoon of opinion, then set them on fire and toss them around with a lot of vitriolic language behind them. Because it gets the clicks. And we're all more concerned with dunking on each other than learning about each other. You know, in some ways, this is a very human
This guy
reaction.
is so fucking, I'll be real, this guy is so fucking based.
We want things to be simple and clean. We want good guys and bad guys. Will Hoyo go union? Will they add additional AI protections into non-union contracts instead? Will they simply recast everyone who's refusing to come in? I don't know. I'm not part of these conversations. And to be very frank, almost everyone who I talked to who said they definitely know about those conversations going on have given me conflicting information, which means that again, lots of people are saying they know when in fact they don't. And again, if the people on the front lines in this industry don't have all the information, Reddit probably doesn't either. What we do know is that nothing has changed for Hoyo contractually yet. And they have, in fact, recast actors who have refused to come in. They waited a while with their character silent before doing that. What they're waiting for, I'm not totally sure. We do know that Chinese companies tend to not bend to the will of the masses. They don't respond well to mob rule on social media. But we also know that other large Chinese developers have signed union contracts with no problem. Should they protect their actors from AI exploitation? Yes, absolutely. No one will argue that. It's a difficult claim to make that actors shouldn't have agency over their likeness. But will Hoyo do it without some sort of intervention law like California AB 2602 to do it for them? I'm not sure. Will a collective work refusal?
Honestly, the issue wouldn't have gotten this big if the VAs had just took the Cabinetz problem to a conversation in private. Can I make a hot take? I think it needed to happen in a really fucked up way. And like the guy who is now Cabinetz's VA, honestly, he deserves the biggest fucking salute and the biggest fucking pat on the back and everything and the biggest applause, because he has suffered through this and been shat on through unnecessarily. But in a really fucked up way, I feel like this had to happen. This had to happen for all of this information to finally come to light, for the general public to understand and be way more informed. So I think in a really fucked up way, this has been an overall good thing for people to become informed on. Because now people are way more closer to the truth than they were before. And people aren't just going to take the VAs for their word and not to trust VAs so blindly. VAs are not figures of authority. So we shouldn't blindly trust them. And I'm glad that now we have that separation of like, hang on, we can't just believe everything they say because they worked on the game or they're the VA of this character. So in a really fucked up way, I think this had to happen.
Push them to do it? Evidence right now is not saying so, no, but that could change. I'm not sure. I don't have a crystal ball on this. Will Hoyo fill those roles that it's recasting? We're seeing now that they likely will. They have in the past. They may continue to do so in the future. So actors need to decide individually what they're going to do with all of this data. As you can see, it's not easy. I'm trying very hard here not to comment on specific subsets of this issue about what's going on literally right now with individual people, because a semantic argument really helps nobody at this point.
He's so smart and mature. Bro, this video is great. This is the video that people should watch about this whole thing. This is literally the video everybody should watch about the whole situation. It just gets you straight to the point with the details. It's great.
I will say this. If you're finding yourself on an extreme side of this issue, one way or another, it's probably time to admit to yourself that it's because you don't have all the information. Because once you do have all the information, it's very hard to play this as black and white as social media wants us to play. If I've done nothing else in this video, what I hope I've done is show you just how confusing this landscape is and how collective action problems can be very difficult to solve. Even when a collective bargaining organization is involved, like the union, you can see that since we're still 8 months into this strike and we've had so many strikes over the last 10 years, it's still extremely difficult to solve this kind of problem. So, when you take a collective bargaining official organization out of the equation in the non-union world, and then make it up to a bunch of individual actors from wildly different walks of life, economic statuses, and personal opinions to try to chart a collective path forward, it gets even worse. So when you see individual people making individual decisions, remember that they're individuals. No one is the villain in their own story, but you might be the villain in somebody else's. With the exception.
Ooh, no. Oh, bro just hit the one shot point into the fucking net, bro. Bro just hit it in the back of the, bro took a shot and dunked. Oh, shit.
Exception of my several rants about the danger of social media toxicity and mob rule in this video, something I feel very passionate about on the side, I also hope I achieved my objective of teaching instead of influencing, okay? I'm not looking for you to take action. I'm looking for you to understand and think for yourself. My goal here was to break down the many complicated facts of the current strike, how Genshin and Hoyo are involved, how actors make decisions and talk to each other, bargain, build a career in a field that's very difficult to navigate, to grow in, and succeed in. It is my sincere hope that this video will move the global conversation forward toward a productive resolution that respects not just human performers, but human beings. As I wrap this up, I imagine that many of you are feeling a little hollow. You might have come here looking for the right answer, and I've just spent a fair amount of time telling you that there might not be one. I'm not here to give you a best path forward. Other than that, I know that the toxic online discourse needs to stop immediately, and we need to spend a lot more time listening than talking. But on the bright side, this nebulous area is where we tend to thrive and make great progress as a society. We excel at taking imperfect circumstances.
I do agree. You know, all the toxic behavior that people are engaging in is not good to finding a solution, but by God, is it entertaining? By God, is it entertaining as a bystander just to see people absolutely crash the fuck out over this. Like, it's like, and that's awful. That's an awful thing to say, right? That's a horrible thing to say. That is a ridiculously horrible thing to say, but like it's still like true for a lot of people, right? Like, we were enjoying looking at what's going on. We find it curious. We're like, oh my God, like this is crazy. We are evil. No, all of us are fucking evil. We are, put your hands up. We are all part of the problem. We are all part of the problem at this point. Solutions replace all the striking actors. The funny thing is, they're not even striking because the game isn't struck. They're just refusing to work. This is the thing. They're just refusing to work in the hopes that that influences them enough to flip union. That's literally all that's happening. Like, they're not even striking. The game's not even struck.
And making the best of them, but only if we communicate, get educated, and engage each other with respect and understanding. Thank you for taking the time to get educated. Thank you for your passion, your creativity, your enthusiasm, your art. Thank you for listening. Go be kind to each other.
I'm going to subscribe. Bro, this was a really great video. It's opened a lot of people's eyes, you know, to the truth. There are a couple more questions that I do wish were answered, but a lot was covered. A lot was covered, and this was absolutely great. I think actually I might even upload this as a react on my channel because I think it's important to I don't know. I have no fucking influence, but I think it's good just to get this message out there more. I've stayed away from making any content about the VA situation, but I think this is, if I were to make anything, I think it would be this, because I think this provides the best information for people. So this is great. Make sure you go like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate you all. I'm live every single day on Twitch, Cabinetz. I'm probably even live right now, to be honest. So I appreciate y'all, and I'll join my Discord. That's important. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Chicken jockey.